When I first met Clara, she seemed like the embodiment of everything I had ever dreamed of. Stunningly beautiful, quick-witted, and driven, she carried herself with a kind of self-assurance that naturally drew people toward her. We had been together for nearly 3 years, and while we had our disagreements, I believed our relationship was unshakable. I thought we truly understood each other. I thought I truly understood her. I couldn't have been more wrong. It was just an ordinary Friday evening. I had come home from work, settled into my chair with a fresh cup of coffee, when my phone buzzed. The message was from Clara. I expected something sweet or lighthearted. A meme, a photo of her lunch, a little inside joke. Instead, I found myself staring at a selfie of her leaning against a man I had never seen before. His arm was casually draped over her shoulder, and she wore that same mischievous smirk she once reserved for me when we first started dating. Beneath the picture, a single word appeared. Upgraded. I froze. My eyes locked on the screen. My mind empty except for those 8 letters, each one sinking into me like a blade. My heart was pounding. My palms were damp, but my face remained still. I didn't respond. I didn't ask who he was. I simply set my phone down and stared at the wall, feeling as though the floor had collapsed beneath me. Clara had always known how to push my buttons. She thrived on provocation, on testing how far she could go before I broke. But this wasn't one of her usual games. This was a clear message. I'd been replaced, and she was proud enough to flaunt it. The ache in my chest was sharp, but underneath it was an unfamiliar calm. Something deep inside told me the best thing I could do was nothing at all. That night, sleep barely touched me. My thoughts circled every moment of our time together, searching for signs I had missed. The sudden late nights at work, the phone calls she'd taken in another room, the unexplained weekends spent with friends. In hindsight, they were glaringly obvious. But I had convinced myself she was faithful, that I was enough. I had been wrong. The next morning, she didn't call, didn't text, didn't even check to see if I had reacted. I imagined she was waiting for me to explode, to beg for answers, to accuse her, so she could turn herself into the victim. But I wasn't going to give her that performance. I moved through my day in silence. Days passed. Then a week. Finally, she sent another message, not to explain but to taunt me. "No comment on my upgrade?" she wrote, followed by a laughing emoji. I still didn't answer. Her irritation started to seep into her social media posts, cryptic captions about cowards and weak men who can't handle strong women. She wanted a fight. I gave her nothing. Instead, I quietly began removing myself from her world. When she was out, I packed my clothes, my laptop, and my important documents. I moved my share of the money from our joint account into my own and left the key to our apartment on the kitchen counter. A week later, she came home to find the apartment half empty. She called me immediately, her voice sharp with panic. "What is this? Are you serious?" she demanded. "You made your choice," I told her calmly. "I'm making mine." She started shouting, but I ended the call before she could finish. Then I blocked her number, her social media, and every other way she could reach me. The silence that followed was like clean air after a storm. It hurt at first, like tearing away something that had been a part of me for years, but it was liberating. Months later, I learned from friends that the man in the selfie didn't last. He'd figured out her talent for manipulation and left without warning. She tried to reach me again after that, but I had no interest in reopening that chapter. By then, I had reclaimed my life. I was working out, reviving old hobbies, taking spontaneous weekend trips. For the first time in years, I felt free. That photo she sent was meant to humiliate me, to spark a reaction, to drag me back into her toxic cycle. Instead, it gave me the push I needed to break away. Looking back, I realized my silence was the loudest response I could have given. She wanted to see me broken, but all she found was the empty space where I used to be. And in that space, I built something stronger, myself. She may have thought she upgraded, but in reality, I was the one who did. I upgraded my life, my peace, and my self-respect. Those are things she can never take away from me.